Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host Flavia Barris as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur. Hey solopreneurs, today we get to speak with Deborah Driggs. From her start as a Playboy Centerfold and Covergirl to her life as a Screen Actors Guild member and then top-rated insurance professional, Deborah Driggs has had to clear many hurdles in life to make these things happen. And while it may seem like Deborah's success came easy to her, nothing could be further from the truth. Rather, she has overcome a number of challenges in her life to get to where she is today. But what is true and part of her character is her willingness to take risks, maintain a positive attitude, and never take no for an answer. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here to chat with us. I mean, there's so many things we can touch on as different topics, but first, let's just focus a little bit on your journey and how you got to where you are today as a solopreneur from where you started.
Yeah, you really touched on that nothing came so easy. I think sometimes we look at success in different people and we think, oh my God, yeah, of course, success came easy to them. Or of course, she did well in that area of her life because she was on the cover of Playboy. And like you said, nothing could be further from the truth. I had to pay my dues just like everybody else and start right from the beginning and really transitioning from Playboy to business. Nobody cared. In the business world, nobody cared that I was on the cover of a magazine. Business is business. And so that did not, everyone says, oh, well, did that help you get indoors? And I said, well, no. And if anything, that worked against me sometimes. So, I was really careful if I even brought it up, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I kind of kept that to myself. And then, sometimes every once in a while, somebody would find out, oh, she was on the cover of Playboy or she was in Playboy. And then it would come up, but not for very long. Because like I said, business is business. And it doesn't matter if you're on the cover of a magazine when money's on the line and people really want good service.
Let's talk about that because this is interesting. So this comes up in lots of conversations I've had with solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, people who say, look, I'm a multi-passionate person. I love teaching yoga, but I also love helping people with their financial planning. And I have an Etsy store where I sell this jewelry that I make. And, there's people who have all these different interests, and it's actually really difficult to bring it all together because people get confused because it's human nature to want to pigeonhole people. Like, okay, you are the insurance person. Great. Okay, you fit in this hole and that's who you are. And that's how we will interact. And then when they learn something about you, like, oh, she was on the cover of this magazine, it throws people off sometimes. And I think as women and in any of the fields like acting, like modeling, like any dancing, all these different fields, there can also be a lot of misconceptions too. I'll give you an example because I grew up in the dance world. So cheerleading, dance, took it all the way through high school, college, and then became a professional cheerleader for the Chargers. A lot of people don't know that. I don't really mention it on the podcast much, but it really is relevant today because I will tell you that as a cheerleader, quote unquote, people are like, okay, so you're wearing basically a bathing suit in front of 60,000 fans and you were out there shaking pom-poms. And well, you can't be very smart then because clearly someone who puts on that much hairspray and makeup and is dancing in public must not be very cerebral, right? And so there's all these misconceptions and stereotypes and misjudgments. And it's really interesting though in the world because do we hide these aspects of ourselves or is it in some ways our job as people who either have been in one of these types of jobs that are misjudged to sort of prove to the world and help establish that persona as like, hey, I can be top of my class in law school. And yeah, I used to be a cheerleader. And you know what? That dovetails perfectly. And there is nothing incongruent about those two roles and putting them together. So I love the fact that you were a cover girl for Playboy magazine, yet you're also a kick butt insurance professional, which is a very, involved in academic field and you had to do a lot of studying and pass tests. And so I dig that. And I think we need more of that in the world and less judgment in the world.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, we have so much in common because I too was a professional cheerleader and I did too wear a bathing suit and shake my pom-poms in front of 60,000 people. I love that. And it's funny because people think that that's just all, that cheerleading is, but really football is a spectator sport and the cheerleaders have to know what's going on. And we fill in the gaps really for the games, as you well know. And there's a little bit of stress involved in professional cheerleading that people don't really realize behind the scenes. So I think that's so funny that we both have that little bit of background that's in common.
And there's so much there. Yeah, there's so much to unpack there, right? You've been there, I mean, you have to have media training. You have to be able to be a spokesperson for the brand. And you have to, sometimes you're in business meetings and, you're representing the team and the group. And, there's a lot of kind of event planning that goes into it as well, because you're usually out there doing the promotions and depending. And
it's a show. It's a show. You have to, we worked our butts off to learn those routines and go out on the field and perform and do a show. So, I mean, we had Paula Abdul, when I was professional cheerleading, she would teach us some of our routines. Back then, she was the big, she was famous Laker cheerleader and she was a really kick-ass dancer. And so she came over and taught the LA Express our first year. She was teaching us routines because we wanted to really be known as a dance squad, not a cheerleading squad. And absolutely all the radio shows we did, all the morning shows and promotions. And people don't understand that, you have to have some type of common sense and smarts, to do those kind of jobs. They don't just pick. It helps that you look good in a great cheerleading uniform and all of that, but you do have to be able to speak and do the promotions as well. So absolutely. Yeah. You know what? I think it's amazing that we can be beautiful. We can be sexy. We can be smart and we can wear all these different hats and we can be successful. And I just think it's amazing and how grateful are we that we live in a world today where we can do all that. We get to do all that. And I find it fascinating sometimes when somebody puts a judgment out there, oh, you posed nude for Playboy. And I say, yeah, and I'm really proud of it. Playboy was the #1 magazine in the world, not just because it had a beautiful centerfold every month, but because it actually wrote world-changing articles. And it also, Hef was clearing the paveway for lots of issues in the world with race and women's issues and sex issues and things that people didn't want to talk about. He put in his magazine. He was just paving the way. So I'm super flattered that I was chosen to be one of 12 girls a year in a #1 magazine that lasted decades in that spot. And Hef really was a visionary. And, when I got chosen to do Playboy, I remember asking them, how many submissions do you get? Because I overheard some conversation about it. And my makeup artist told me that they get over 1,000, or they were getting over 1,000 submissions a day from girls all over the world wanting to be in the magazine. And that really hit me. I thought, wow, I don't ever take it for granted that I was chosen to be a part of history, because Playboy is history. So I'm really lucky, in my when I wear my business hat. And at first, I will admit that I thought, oh God, I hope nobody finds out that I posed nude. They won't take me seriously. And thank God I got over that really quick, because that's just a part of my past and a part of who I am and what I did and a part of my history. And it's brought me to where I am today. And the success that I've had in business is there because I have that confidence, and I can be in a room with just about anybody, and I don't have any feeling of that I don't belong. You know what I mean? I always have felt like I belong in this room. Even if I love that saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I agree with that statement 100%. Most of the rooms I've been in throughout my business career, I have never been the smartest person in the room. And that just means that I got to grow and learn and keep moving up and keep expanding in my life. And that's a gift. And yeah, if somebody would have told me 15 years ago, Deborah, you are going to be in the top 5%. And at one point, you'll be the number one agent and you're going to receive all these accolades and people are going to look up to you and they're going to want to do business with you. I would have just laughed, I would have just said, that's just not possible. I don't see that for myself. And so, it's really interesting how doors shut, but other doors open. And I would have never thought that I could be as successful as I was. And in 2011, 12, and 13 were really my successful years in my business. And the reason is because I was relentless. I called everybody. I didn't put the phone down until I had a deal. And I talk about it a lot when I speak to groups, and that is that no means maybe. And I termed that phrase because I wrote it in big capital letters on my yellow pad one day. It was a day that I just kept getting no's. And one of the calls that I had made that day was to a friend of mine he used to be the head of Warner Brothers. And I said, I really need to get you as a client, because if I get you as a client, I know that you'll refer me business. And if people know that you're doing your insurance with me, they'll switch. And he said, Deborah, I already have somebody. I have a friend that I use. And that's kind of like what my business is, right? It's all about relationships. And I said, yeah, but let me just do an audit because I think I can lower your premiums. And he just started laughing because here I come with the sales pitch, right? And I said, okay, well, I'll call you next week. And he goes, Deborah, I just said no, like I have somebody. And I said, I know, but things change. I'll call you next week. And of course, I call him the following week. And I said, let's go have lunch. And he's like, okay, Deb, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to do an audit. Just let me do the audit. And if I can save you money, you have to switch. You have to let me do your insurance. And we did the audit. I was able to save him 22% on his premiums. He switched. And do you know that he referred me so much business? And you know what he would tell people? Just do it because she's not going to leave you alone. And I love that. I love that, because here he is. He's selling for me. How brilliant. And so I wrote it down in big letters on my yellow pad. No means maybe. And I did that as kind of an affirmation for myself in sales, because sales can get so tiring. You could make 100 calls and maybe one person says yes. And anybody in sales knows that those are just the numbers. Those are just the numbers. So for me, I had a rule for myself, and that was I was not going to put the phone down until I had at least one or two clients. And I just dialed for dollars. I called and called and called and called until I started building a book of business. And what's beautiful about that today is that now most of those people, so I'll get texts from past clients saying, are you still selling insurance? Because I have somebody I want to refer you to. How beautiful is that?
Amazing.
That validation. It's validation, and all that hard work pays off. And, sales can be, like I said, it's humbling is what it is. I'm no longer the star of the show. It's humble pie. I am now of service, and I am trying to add value into people's lives. And I'm trying to do whatever it takes to create a business where that is exactly what I'm doing, is adding value for other people. And I'm no longer the star of the show. I am the star in my business. But as far as my clients are concerned, they don't care that I'm this or that or whatever. Do you know what I mean? My ego is totally put aside for the benefit of my clients.
Of course. And they feel that, which is why they keep sending you more clients and they keep coming back. They feel that you are a person of integrity who puts service first, service for your clients. And it's hard to be in sales. I mean, sales is one of those areas, it's human nature not to want to be rejected. I mean, we don't want to be rejected, right? Nobody wants to hear a no. Nobody wants to be turned down. And when you're in sales, you have to get really comfortable with it.
Exactly. Never go into the entertainment business if you don't want to hear a no, because I heard no's all the time. I would go on auditions for big roles, especially during pilot season. And I remember getting right down to the last callback and thinking, oh my God, I know I got this job. Like I booked it. And then you don't get it. And it's like, oh my God, I just put all this my heart and soul and all this work into this audition, and you go through 3 callbacks and you don't get it. And it's because the casting person tells my agent, well, the producer's daughter got the job, a little nepotism or whatever the case may be, or they decided to go a completely different way. And that would happen so much. And so, or, when you go in for an audition, sometimes they would tell you right on the spot, oh, no, you're too thin for this role, or you're too short, or you're too old. I remember being in my 20s going on auditions and them telling me you're too old. And I'd be thinking, what? How can, it's so, if you have any fear of rejection, you definitely don't want to go into the entertainment business.
Oh, for sure.
You learn how to toughen up with rejection. And so I think probably if one thing served me from that time of my life was that rejection in sales wasn't going to be the end all for me, because to get rejected from Billy Crystal, let's just say, I've auditioned for Billy Crystal, and to have him say, no, thank you. Getting somebody telling me no in life insurance, I can handle that.
That is, a pretty good training ground if you're going to go into any other kind of sales, is to start in showbiz, because the rejections are personal, very cruel. It's one thing if someone's like, I just don't need insurance. But if someone's like, I think you're too short, it's very personal. So I think that maybe
so it's one thing to secret. It's one thing to reject what I'm selling, but when you're getting rejected as a person, that's what I'm saying. I definitely had the training ground, and I didn't know that too. I never looked at it that way until later on. And I thought, everything I've done in my life has gotten me to this point. Everything, good and bad.
And now that you're here and you work high level insurance sales, what do you do to stay sane? Because being in sales is a very constant, your phone is your lifeline. It rings. You have to take the call. You have to maybe make that sale. So you don't want to let it go to voicemail. And so I know a lot of people in sales who become kind of slaves to their phone and their email. What do you do to keep your life balanced? Obviously you're on this podcast. So this is one of your values is balance and living life apart from work. What do you do as your secret sauce?
Well, this is such a great question, because this is something that was really lacking, because I was that person. I carried 2 phones. I had an iPad and 2 phones, and I'd get up in the morning. The first thing I do is open my computer and start going down emails, making sure everything was okay before I even got a cup of hot water with lemon. It's like I was on my computer. So what I do now is I get up, I stretch, I do yoga, I meditate. I serve myself so that I'm getting the oxygen first before I go and try to put it into whatever business venture I'm doing. So whatever I'm doing at the time now, I fill myself first before I even open my computer. Because the thing that I learned is that things are going to go good and they're going to go bad. And I never know at what point that's going to shift, or what's going to happen, or what bad news I'm going to get, or what investment I made isn't going to do well, or who's going to not do their insurance after we did all the work. I don't know what lies ahead. So the best thing for me to do now is get my oxygen first, which means stretch, meditate, do some yoga before I even open the computer, so that I have this relaxed state that I go into now, instead of, oh my God, I used to just be so on it. And that's good and bad. I got a lot done, but I wasn't enjoying it. I was missing a lot of what was really going on because I was so on it. And there, it used to be a joke in my world, with my friends and my coworkers and people I was doing business with. The joke was, if you want something done, give it to Deb. She'll get it done. It's like that saying, give a busy person some more to do because they'll get it done. And it's so true. It was so true for me. And so, that I would say my balance now is to start my day off with my oxygen, go into my day. And then throughout the day now, I really pay attention to my physicality. And if I find myself getting into that place where I'm starting to feel like, oh, I'm feeling a little tight right now, I get out of my chair and I go move. Even if I go outside and walk for 20 minutes in the sun just to get away from it and then come back. Because a new thing I do is I don't make any major decisions now for 24 hours. I used to just be the yes person, or people would say, how about this? I go, okay, without even thinking about it. And now I go, you know what? Let me get back. And I sleep on everything now, even the littlest things, because it's practice. I've now trained myself that I say, let me get back to you on that. Even if I already know the answer, because I'm practicing that pause, that take my time. Because here's what I've realized: 9 times out of 10, whatever that question was or whatever that request was usually goes away. And I don't even have to say anything. So that has been a big learning curve for me, is to just sit back and watch while other people sometimes go a little nuts. I just sit back. I used to get right there involved in the middle of it, right? Oh yeah, da 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 da. Let's do this. Da 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 da. Okay, yeah, okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's da da. Now I'm like, I'm going to sit on that for about 24 hours. I'll get back. And I just get out of it. And then usually when I go back, one of two things have happened. One, it either disappeared, or two, it's taken on a new form. It's taken on a new meaning. And there's something different that needs to be resolved. So I would say, to just take pauses more often, especially for entrepreneurs and business people. I know, because I talk to a lot of people that own their business and they make decisions really quick. And I know the number one thing, when I have a group that I meet with once a week that is 80% entrepreneurs. And the number one thing is that they wish they would have taken more time making decisions.
What an important lesson. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think so many of us are guilty not only of making decisions too quickly, but also of saying yes too often. So what you're talking about is a huge hack. And I hope everyone takes it to heart and kind of pauses on that and thinks about it, because it sounds simple enough, but it's actually difficult to put into practice and it's not a natural instinct. So I think we all need to do better there. And thank you for sharing that. Now, for you, I know you're a mom. How do you sort of envision the future of your kids? Because as parents, we don't want our kids to make any of the mistakes that we've made. So for example, myself, like I'm a mom and I want to make sure that my daughter never becomes a workaholic working 14 hours a day, unless she's extremely happy doing that. But if, I don't want her to ever feel cornered or trapped or, wearing golden handcuffs to a job. And it's an important value for me. And it's something that I hope to pass on to her as my child. And I know you're a mom too. So is this something you think about ever with your own kids?
Nah. Nah. No, of course. Are you kidding? It's probably the one thing that keeps me up at night. Anything that has to do with being a mom, parenting, that's where I judge myself the harshest, is how I am as a mom. I can really get down on myself. I wish I would have done better with this, or I wish I would have. That's where I think I can beat myself up a little bit too much. But what I've come to realize now, my kids are adults now. And what I've really come to realize is I don't run the show. I never really have. I thought I did, but I just don't run the show. They are their own unique person. They are going to do things their way. And I have to sit and watch it unfold and be really careful now, because they're adults, on when to give advice and when not to give advice, and when to help and when not to help. And to remember, and I hope that this is the one thing that I really tried to do as a parent, was to let them kind of go their own ways and to not be a helicopter parent, so to speak. And I've tried to be supportive in everything that they want to do, because I know that is the one thing as a parent, it's the hardest thing. If your kids come to you and they say, hey, I want to be an artist. Let's just say I want to be an artist. I want to paint. And we all know as parents, well, that's probably not going to pay the rent. But the one thing I don't want to ever do is squash a dream. Because at the end of the day, as long as my kids are good human beings, they're just kind of living their purpose and happiness every day. They're just kind of living that flow. Then I did my job. It's not about how much money they make, or it's not about that anymore. And I think because of all the experiences I've had in life, the one thing that I really needed the most, especially in my 20s, was more of a mentor and a guide, not somebody telling me what I could and could not do, but somebody that would mentor and guide and be patient and understand and be compassionate. Because what I've realized too is, if I'm judging what my kids are doing, I can't help them. And a lot of parents fall into this trap of judging, being the judge and judging what their kids are doing. And when you're judging anybody, by the way, not just your kids, the minute you start judging anybody, you're not helping them. You can't help them. We have to take that completely out. You're not of any help to anybody when you're judging them. they feel that. They feel the judgment. They don't feel the acceptance or the love. So to put yourself in that place of acceptance and love, and then know, like, my kids are not going to do things my way. And I have 3 artists for children. All 3 of them have an artist brain. They're not super business minded. They're maybe a little entrepreneurial and artist combined, but they're not quick like I am. I get things done today where it might take them 2-3 weeks. And that's who they are. They don't have that urgency that I have to get things done. And it used to really be where we would butt heads because I'd like, did you get that done? Especially when they were younger. Now, not they're adults now. It's not my business what they do now. But when they were younger, I'd always be like, did you get that done? Oh, I'll get to it. And for somebody like me, that nothing, everything gets done now, that would just be like, oh my God, no, get it done. But that's the thing. It's like, that's me. That's not them. And so, yeah, I think one, to stay out of judgment, to be very open to what other people want to do, because I never know where the great ideas are going to come from. I don't. And I know that even at my age, at 57 years young, I am still learning and growing. And my kids are now teaching me things. I'm learning from them. And there's never going to be a day that comes around where I go, oh, I got it. I'm done. I've learned it all. This is it. I've hit the peak. I'm at the top and I've learned everything I need to learn and I'm all done. It's all good. It's never going to happen. I hope that I'm 90 years old and I'm still learning and still growing and I'm still open to new experiences and new visions and new thoughts and new jobs and new opportunities. And everything is changing rapidly. I mean, we have seen in the last 5 years, especially this last year, how things can just change, boom, overnight. Everything can change. So that's the thing I think we have to be really, really, really willing to see with our kids is that we never know what they're capable of. And the days of us sending our kids off to college to be doctors and lawyers are over. Education is becoming a thing of the past. I mean, look at this last year with all these kids that couldn't go to school. And I remember having conversations with a lot of my friends who were spending thousands of dollars to send their kids to these very expensive schools and colleges. And now they're home in front of a computer. Who knew? So when I say things are changing, they're changing rapidly. And so education might become a thing of the past. And I think that entrepreneurship is really, you're seeing that all the innovation that is available. And I'm just one of those people that I'm just always so amazed at the things and the ideas that people come up with. I think it's brilliant. We live in a very awesome time right now.
We do. And for you, when you said that when you were in your 20s, you wish you'd had more mentorship. Like right now, this is really our opportunity through this podcast. There's people listening to this podcast episode who are either aspiring solopreneurs, someone who wants to build a business and wants to do it right and wants to build a business that won't consume them, or someone who already built a business and is looking for ways to learn from others, to maybe dial back a little or just fine tune from other people's ideas and hacks on ways to keep their life balanced and to find success in entrepreneurship. So this is an opportunity to be a mentor, right? To do the thing that you wanted to have done for you in your 20s. What is one sort of parting word of advice for solopreneurs who are either aspiring or have already established themselves, but just people who want to keep life in their life so that their life doesn't become 100% work?
Oh, it's a great, have balance. Have balance. Look at all the areas of your life, relationships, work, spiritual, physical. How's your body? How's your spiritual life? How's your relationship life? How's your work life? And really try to balance it out and never stop growing, never stop learning, never stop reading. I have made it a goal this year to read a book at least every 2 weeks, a new book, and to keep training our mind, keep training our mind, keep training our body. Our muscles that we train physically, our mind is just as important. And to create a balanced pie, not just, I know entrepreneurs, it's like all their business becomes their baby. And we have to kind of let it go and not be just a business operator owner, like really think about, am I an operator or am I an owner? Because if you're an owner, you're not in there doing the everyday stuff. You have other people, you're releasing it to other people so that you can enjoy the rest of your life and build other things. So yeah, I would say to keep learning, keep growing, have the balance, and take the pause. Don't make major decisions right off the bat. Sleep on them.
All amazing advice.
Yeah.
Deborah, it's been so great to chat with you today and to get inspired and motivated by your story and to find those things we have in common. It's always so fun to talk to someone else who's a former cheerleader and to chat about how that plays into our business life, which I think is fascinating, really.
It really.
And
yes.
So having you on today has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was such a pleasure. And to anybody listening, God bless. Thank you for listening. And everybody have a wonderful day.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness. But money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use a coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.